Everybody, man, I got a lady on the channel today that I am super excited that she's coming on. I have been talking to this sister for a while. She's a heavyweight in this town, very well respected, has been talking Black history for a long time, not saying because of her age by no stretch, but this is what she does. She's very committed to helping people understand what she knows. And I'm super excited that she has come on the show today. Let me tell you, my name is Anthony Brogdon, and I'm an ordinary guy trying to do something extraordinary as a result of the people that come on here. We are jamming at Strong Inspiration. We've had over 500 guests. All of them were very knowledgeable, very eloquent in their delivery. All of them. We're over 2,200 subscribers, so come on, hit the subscribe button. It's free. It don't cost no information. I do this out of the kindness of my heart because I get blessed knowing these people. It's free to watch Strong Inspiration. Take it to your classrooms, teachers. Show this. Show what this lady is going to tell you today. Let people hear. Let this resonate throughout the world. Because I got people around the world who are watching me. I get messages from all over. I know I'm on to something special, and I'm going to keep doing this from now on. I enjoy this at Strong Inspirations. Did you see the video I did with Madam C.J. Walker's two-time great-granddaughter? Oh, my God. Did you see the one I did with the guy who they had his grandfather at the tree with the rope around his neck and was about to pull the cord, and God stepped in and it did not happen? Watch that video. Those are two separate folk. Watch the video I did with the guy whose family owned 100 and some odd acres in South Carolina. They have a foundation up under this auspices of this history, and he talks about how they got the land. It was from enslaved ancestor. Watch that video. Did you see the one I do with the guy that lived in the mountains of the shucks? Man, I can't think of it. Just look for it. It's in the mountains. He talks about it. I got a guy, and I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on the mountains, but the iron ore, wherever that is. And the guy says that his great-great-grandfather in slavery lives, his kids, they live 4 blocks away from him. He drives past the house daily. Watch that video. Watch the one that I did with the lady who integrated the school in 1965 in Gainesville, Florida. And she said 6 of her classmates tried to kill her. And the principal would not let her use the telephone. She goes home, she tells her dad, who's president of the chapter NAACP. Dad says, hey, okay, we're going to have to, let this go. You my daughter. I can't. She said, no, man, I'm going back. And now she has her doctorate degree. You can't stop us. That's the moral of this story. You couldn't stop us then, and you can't stop us now. We're going to keep fighting because we got that resilience and that tenacity. Now, everybody, just a couple more things. You can't stop me neither. I got to share this information. I later in life found out that there were enslaved Black folks who owned businesses. Did not know that. When I found it out, I did this documentary on the topic titled Business in the Black. And it was so amazing to me, I, on my own dime, took it to over 40 US cities, Toronto, Canada, and London, England, for the people to hear these stories. And so get you a copy, and I get a copy, but watch it on Amazon. It's titled Business in the Black. Then I took it one step further and I wrote this book, which is now America's #1 Black business history book. It's titled Black Business Book. It's got over 200 facts. There are over 30 enslaved Black folks owned businesses listed in here. I tell you how enslaved Black folks gained an education and then go to college. People don't know that there were 3 HBCUs open before slavery ended. And then a bunch of them came online in 1865, and then the floodgates opened. We're going to get us an education. And I mentioned all that and so much more in my book, Black Business Book. Get you a copy of that. If you go to my website, businessintheblack.net, that's where, when you order it on the website, you get it autographed. Now, I got a couple of things that are coming up when you go to my website, and if you're in the Detroit area, I got a bunch of speaking engagements. I'm stepping out now. So check out that, all that I'm doing speaking here. And I want to come to your town. I want to take it on the road and come. You need a speaker? Look me up. And I'm having my own Black History Festival, June 7th through the 9th in Kansas City, Kansas, called Freedom Quindaro. Quindaro, in my estimation, is America's largest underground railroad site. Come meet me there. I'm going to feed you the whole weekend. We're going to talk and we're going to hear of how those freedom seekers lived, and so much more out of that Kansas City, Kansas district. It's a small nominal price. Meet me there. And we're going to dance too. Now, I don't eat pork, but those who do, it's a barbecue capital. All right, do that now, my friends. You hear me use this term strong a lot. Strong is my favorite word. I just like the word strong. Everything I do got strong in it. In my world, strong stands for strength, tenacity, resilience, and a sense of oneness, nobility, and grace. And that is my introduction to the Strong Soul Sister on the channel today. Come on, introduce yourself. Let's get it on. Thank you so very much for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. I just kind of go about my life doing what I do, and I don't know what people think about it or whatever. It's a struggle sometimes. So I appreciate that you appreciate me. So thank you very much.
No question. Tell us your name. Tell us your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I am Sharon Elizabeth Sexton, and I live in Detroit, Michigan. I wasn't born here. My dad was in the Army, so I was born down in Virginia. And basically my book, which is MLK Jr.'s Detroit Dream, it kind of starts when I came to Detroit.
Okay, let me stop you there. I mean, no disrespect, but let me go back just a little bit more. I do this with all the guests. I ask a couple questions, let them get to know you. You said you were born in Virginia. Were you get your education, grade school in Virginia, or did you move to Detroit?
My dad was in the Army. He was an officer in the Army, one of the few Black officers back in the 1960s who had progressed from a private on up, and he served in both World War II and Korea. And basically, when I was born, he was in the middle of his, volunteer into the Army. He was in for 20 years, and we traveled around the world. So my first experience was in Germany as a baby. And then as a young person, when I could really remember things, we were in Taiwan. You hear Taiwan being discussed on TV now or in the news, and it's like, hey, I was there as a kid. I remember when he was vice president at the time, when Johnson came to Taiwan, because my dad was the transportation officer, so he had to arrange the parade, because he actually paraded down the street in Taipei. So it's interesting to me to be listening to the news, and it seems like there are circles or what's the word I'm looking for? Anyhow, whatever. But circles of history, and it seems like we're in one of those circles of history now. And all this, the civil rights era basically started about that time.
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. So growing up, did you play with Black kids, or you play with white kids in the Army, and what's that dynamic?
My mom was fierce. My mom was a fierce woman, and basically I played by myself. Yeah, because she didn't want other people out there abusing me, even though, and that's
Good.
maybe why I'm tough now. I don't take no stuff from
Sure,
nobody.
sure, sure, sure,
And
sure, sure,
yeah, so
sure.
basically I played by myself a lot. And even when I was in school, because it was interesting, when my mother's a teacher, and when we were in Taiwan, she was a second grade teacher, and I was in the second grade. There were only two second grades in the school. It was an American school. Basically, my brother and I were the only Black kids on the whole doggone island of Taiwan when we were there. So,
Really?
I had to learn at an early age to be a ambassador for my race. We couldn't
Oh,
do anything to
really?
embarrass the family. And especially with my dad being an officer, one of the few Black officers in the Army, you had to do things right. There was no messing up. There was no
Okay.
disrespect for anybody.
Okay, let me ask you this. Did you face any racism growing up at any point? Did somebody say something to you, get the N word, anything like that?
Well, like I was kind of young and stuff like that would bounce off of me. My brother had it worse. He's 3 years older than me, and he was always having fights in school, and he wasn't a
Oh,
bully kid, and he wasn't a
yeah.
child who was aggressive, so he was always defending. And I remember this one time in Taiwan, I guess I was about 7 years old, and I heard, hey, my brother was in a fight. So I'm running over to see what's going on. And so my brother and this other boy were tussling. And I guess this other boy's
Oh, it had to be a white boy.
brother, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it had
everybody
to,
was white.
yeah.
But this other boy had a brother, and he was my age, and he was talking smack. So
Yeah,
nobody gonna talk smack about my brother.
right.
So we got into it. And the boy didn't know how to fight. I knew how to fight because I was a girl. So I used to always tussle with the boys. And this little young white boy didn't know how to fight. So I kept pinning him on the ground. And you know how the kids get around you when
Yeah,
they
yeah,
they
sure.
got so bored and I kept beating him up that they left, and I was still on him, and then I would let him
Oh,
up, and then I'd get back on him and do it again. And there were no kids around to watch. And in
yeah,
Taiwan, the garbage men at that time were like the dolls that you see with the Chinese man with the bamboo hat,
yeah,
the
sure,
straw hat, and he would carry a stick on his shoulder and two bags with garbage on it. So
sure.
anyhow, and of course everybody knew who the Black kids belonged to, not only who we belonged to, but where we lived. So he went and told our maid that I was over there fighting. And next thing I knew, here comes my mom and the maid. They come running after me, pulling me off, a little boy. Anyhow, so when I got back to the United States, I started going to Fitzgerald Elementary School here in Detroit.
Okay, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back a little further, but I want to stay on that just a tad. Was there a different dynamic living around white people from what you could tell for your parents otherwise than when you came back and had to live around Black people?
Well, I love Black people. And because all my relatives were Black, and they were
Yeah,
always
sure,
they loved on me, so I love
sure.
Black people. And when I when I came back to we came to Detroit to visit my grandmother, my mom said I got in the back seat with my grandmother, and I was looking out the window. I said, "Oh, look at all the colored people."
Right, right, sure, sure, sure,
So it
sure,
was it was
sure, sure.
definitely a difference. And basically, because I did experience going to school, being the only Black kid in the classroom, playing by myself and all that, I think it's, well, I'm not going to make a judgment call and say it's cruel to send Black kids to these white schools, but it
Okay,
is.
okay, okay,
And I would
okay.
never do it. And that's one reason why I, as an adult, have always lived in what some people might even consider the ghetto.
Let me ask you this. When
Mhm,
you said Virginia,
mhm.
where's do you know where the plantation is and whatnot in your family? What do you
Don't, okay, you don't open the door
Yeah,
now.
that's
Okay,
right. That's right.
I'm supposed to have all this Native American up in here, right?
Okay, okay, okay.
Even my grandmother, because I did do the DNA test and everything, and they give you, information about the census. Even my grandmother in the 1920 census said she was Native American. when I met my grandfather for the first time, he looked at me and said, "I'm Indian, you're Indian." So all this Indian, right?
Okay. I love it.
Not so much. When you do the DNA testing, you have to be strong, and because I know a lot of people say, "Oh, the DNA test is wrong. I'm this or that." Okay, so I do have Native American in me. I have 2%, and interestingly enough, the 2% is divided between my mom and my dad. So I got 1% from my mom and 1% from my dad.
Okay.
And my African ancestry represents the African countries all over West Africa, Nigeria, Cameroon, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
I'm almost embarrassed to tell you what 40% of me is.
Okay.
What do you think 40% of me is?
I'm gonna let you tell it.
Scottish.
Okay. So there's a white guy Scottish that got with a white guy, white lady somewhere along the line.
Well, when you start doing this DNA thing, you get more information than you think you're going to get. Apparently, my ancestors were from the first people here. Some of them came, and of course we already know that the males are the whites and the blacks are the females. And so my Scottish ancestors came over here on the doggone Mayflower.
Really?
Okay. No. This is gonna blow your mind too. It blew mine. Okay, my black ancestors were some of the first Africans in this country as an enslaved people. Really? So my ancestry goes back to the first people, to all the peoples, to the Native Americans, to the white folks who first came over here, and to the black people who were brought over on the first ship to this country. So my roots go back deep into this country here. So I guess that's why I am the way I am now.
Sure.
All these ancestors are in my head and in my spirit and all that kind of stuff. So
now, so you say Virginia is you think where the plantation was?
Well, hey, once you start going into your ancestry, you'll find out that after you get past your great grandparents, you have a whole lot of people. And I have researched back 7 generations. And so there are a whole lot of people up in there. And I have enslaved people. I have free people. I have, in fact, it seems like my ancestors participated in everything that America gave out, including, my black ancestors even were some of the few who got 40 acres and a mule. Let me tell you. Okay. We talked about Civil War. Let's go back to the Civil War. Okay. And none of my ancestors got on the Underground Railroad, and people who know me know that I'm an Underground Railroad historian, especially in.
So what do you mean that none of them escaped?
None of them escaped. There were free ones, and my father's people go back to Natchez, Mississippi. My mom's people go back to Virginia. Anyhow, in this mix of folks dealing with who served in the Civil War, 5 of my male ancestors served in the Civil War. 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 served in the colored troops. 2 of them served in the Mississippi colored troops. Who knew that Mississippi had colored troops fighting for the Union? And then I have 2 who fought for the Confederate. Now that must have been something interesting on the battlefield when you got two black brothers who know the white folks and they fighting each other. So I said, oh my goodness, no wonder people scared of me.
Okay, hold on. Let me ask you, how do you find that out, that they fought that they were, you see documents that say war memorials, whatever. How do you find that out?
Okay, because I did the Ancestors DNA or Ancestor.com, and like I said, once you start getting into this ancestry stuff, some information might come to you that you might feel uncomfortable with. And all I can say is that my male ancestors really didn't know that there was going to be DNA testing, in the future. So basically, once I had done got on the site, I was immediately contacted by a cousin I didn't even know I had. and it goes back to this little place, in Mississippi, and that place was a wretched place, I must say. There was a lot going on after dark, and apparently I have cousins. Well, like I said, my grandmother came here with a baby bump. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
My grandfather, who was in Mississippi, he always claimed that he didn't have any kids. And I even met him and his wife. Okay, his wife was many years back in the day. So apparently, when women were coming to Natchez, Mississippi from the north, Black women, and he was such a charming guy because he was a charmer. He was handsome. He was all that. Plus, like I said, back in the enslavement days, I had both enslaved ancestors and also free ancestors in Mississippi and in Virginia. And in fact, I have 5 enslaved grandmothers who I'm trying to find their name to. And I have, and it's interesting because when you're doing the DNA, and 2, what I did, because I'm not sure if I want to stop it because all this information comes through, but Ancestor.com has different levels, and you pay certain amount every month, to stay on the site. And if you pay like the $50 or it's $49.99,
yeah, sure.
They search all these areas for you, all the the public information and everything. And once they start matching up names, and then you have to decide, is that your ancestor or not? So so if you pay the extra money, they do the searching for you, because I didn't know how to do it. So all this information will come through, and then once you start identifying people on your tree, then they start saying, is this their mother? Is this their father?
Okay.
And it goes like that. And it's like, whoa, it's like,
okay.
And in fact, when I stop my Underground Railroad research, I'm really going to get into my own ancestry because it's fascinating to me.
Yeah. But, so this is fascinating. You do this because what? What does this do for you?
What does this do for me?
Yeah, finding this information.
History thing or the research?
The research, yeah.
Because I'm nosy.
Okay, I like it.
I'm nosy. And when I was growing up, my favorite word that annoyed adults was why. Why? I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. I love it. And so I was curious, and one of my professions is I was an investigative television reporter, and a damn good one too.
Okay.
This is when Black. In fact, I look at TV now and I see all these Black anchors and reporters, and they're all on the air at the same time. Sometimes I laugh here in Detroit, where you have the weatherman is Black, you got a Black woman who's the anchor, you have a Black man who's a sportsman, and maybe another Black person, and other reporters and everything. This would not have happened back in the 70s. In fact,
yeah, sure.
Two Black people on the same program.
Yeah, sure.
So it's interesting how things have changed now. But anyhow, I was an investigative television reporter. I'm a journalist and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And every place that I worked when I was a reporter, which was, let's say, I started in Lansing, Michigan. I went to Michigan State, and I got a degree in telecommunications at Michigan State and in racial and ethnic studies. So this has always been, so I got a degree studying racial and ethnic people.
Let me stop you there. What made this be not just the research, but why didn't you like saying, okay, I don't have to deal with Black people because I've been around white people, and I can just go into that world instead of let me figure out this part of the world?
Well, because I went to school with them when I was a kid, and they were mean.
Oh, so really? Okay.
I'm not prejudiced, but I'm not going to put myself in a situation which I know is going to harm me or make me feel bad or work in my psyche.
Yeah,
you know,
sure,
I
sure,
refuse
sure,
to do
sure,
that again.
sure,
So
sure.
I feel very comfortable around Black people. You know,
Okay, let me stop you there. You say they were mean when? When were they mean?
in elementary school,
Oh, really?
kids are mean. And, like I was kind of protected because I told you my mom was the teacher at the same school.
Yeah.
And so they didn't necessarily bully me, but they weren't my friends, if you know what
Oh,
I
so
mean.
okay, I got you. I got
Yeah.
you.
So that's why I said I spent a lot of time by myself growing up, and I would play with my dolls, or
Yeah.
and then my parents, because we lived in Germany when I was a baby. I still have my toys. I keep everything. Um,
Yes.
anyhow, they would buy me, kind of these mass toys, and they would be representing different ethnics and people from around the world, or things
Right,
like
right,
that. So,
right.
and then too, I think when children travel at a young age, their minds kind of like are way more accepting and wider than
Okay.
kids who don't travel at a
I
young age.
got you. I got you. So let me ask you
I
this.
was
So what was which other places did you embrace or embraced you the best? Was it the Asia or the Germany
I don't,
of all of them that you think?
Germany was when I was a baby,
Yeah, yeah, right, right,
I was
right.
3 when we came back to the US.
Okay.
And then New York, because we lived in Fort Hamilton, which is in New York. In fact, check this out. We lived in General Grant's house, or at least General Grant lived in the house that we lived in sometime during his military service
Oh,
on Fort
really?
Hamilton. But they
Okay.
ended up tearing down that house to build a Verrazano Bridge. So,
Okay.
so like I said, I remember all these little things, and I remember details. And
Okay.
that's one reason my book.
Yes.
I have,
Yeah, we're gonna plug that book for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the way I approach this is from the mentality of a child, because I guess I never grew up. So
Right, right, right.
I can remember how I felt about things. So what I put in my book is basically how I felt about what was going on. And at the time, it was Martin Luther King coming to Detroit in 1963 for his march in Detroit, his
I
Freedom March in Detroit.
I got one more question on the growing up because I like this and this is a different perspective. And I mean, no disrespect in this. Did you ever wish you were white?
No, I never did.
You never thought they had it better or anything like that?
Oh yeah, you know they have it better, but I never wanted to be white. I had a girlfriend who, when I remember when I was about 14, 15, she's light skinned, lighter than me. And she was saying, "Don't you wish you were white?" And I was like, "Oh, hell no." It's
Really?
like, no, I never. And I have never, and it's interesting because especially when I was in Taiwan, I used to always have a suntan because it's a
Yeah, yeah,
tropical
sure,
island.
sure, sure, sure.
So in the summertime, I'm out there getting tanned, so
Yeah,
I
sure.
always think I'm darker than I really
Yeah,
am.
yeah, I got you. I got you.
And so, how light skinned folks are, because
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
light skinned too.
Right,
They're
right. And that leads to my next question.
hair and skin.
You're right. That leads to my next question. When I was growing up, being lighter complected, I kind of caught hell from black people, and it bothered me. And at one point, I don't know if I felt like I fit in
Well,
because I mean the jokes that came at me, the light skinned jokes, I didn't have a comeback to that. I couldn't say, "Oh yeah, well you dark skinned," because I kind of wished I was. Did
yeah,
that ever?
I
You know
did
what I'm
too.
saying? Did that ever come into your psyche?
I always wish I was darker. I guess that's why I get tan in the summertime. But try being, if you think you had it tough, try being Miss Black Teenage America and being light skinned. Either people will say, "Oh, the only reason you won is because you light skinned," or the other
Yeah,
one say, "You're
yeah,
not a
yeah.
real black person,
Right,
so how
right,
did you get it?" So
right,
it's
right,
just
right,
like,
right, 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 right. Did you try to do things like wear afros or maybe overcompensate wearing Afrocentric clothes?
No, I don't think I overcompensate.
That was not the right word, but you
I
understand.
feel more comfortable in Afrocentric clothing, you know.
Okay, okay.
And so yeah, and then a few maybe 20, 30 years ago, I'm involved with all kinds of Black groups. And
Yes.
this one group, they were basically the Yoruba in America. And this one woman said, every day, if you just wear one thing on you, even if it's not Afrocentric, if you wear one thing on you that's made by a Black person, by a Black hand, you're that's good.
Yeah, right. Sure,
So
sure,
every
sure.
day I wear something, it might be a piece of jewelry. You see my earrings now,
Yes, right. That's right.
made by a sister here in Detroit.
Right, right,
Um,
right, right.
and like I always try to buy from the vendors. I
Right,
probably shouldn't. I can't get another doggone thing in my house. Don't
right,
need
right.
any more jewelry or any more clothes, but still,
Sure,
I try
sure,
to
sure.
to patronize the Black people. And so I don't know what other people see when they look at me, but when I look at them, I think I'm an African.
I got you. I love it. Let's go into this book that you've written. What made you write it? What's the motivation? That kind of thing.
Okay, the book is MLK Jr.'s Detroit Dream, Memoir of a Civil Rights Foot Soldier, and that would be me.
Okay.
Okay, there were two things that inspired the book. A couple of years ago, I went to the Detroit Historical Museum, which I am now chair of the Black Historic Sites Committee at the Detroit Historical Museum.
Right, right.
And they had a program, on Martin Luther King Day. And this is during, right at the end of the pandemic. So, things are opening up, but, people were still kind of sickish and all that. And so the keynote speaker ended up getting sick. So they didn't, the people at the, with the program didn't know it until, she was supposed to be, on entertaining like 10 minutes ago. And so she didn't show up, and I could see the kids, they were all slunching in their chairs and stuff. So something just popped in my head and said, tell them about when you went to the march in 1963. You were 8 years old. So I just went up there and I started telling my story, and they were into it. And I said, well, they do like history. And we started marching around singing, "We Shall Overcome," and all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, because, I'm always entalking, because you can see I'm a little,
Yeah, yeah.
I talk with my
Vivacious
hands,
person. Yeah, yeah, right. Sure.
blah, blah, blah. So
Always know that
I'm
about you.
animated, as they say.
Yes.
So I was really thrilled. And whenever I tell a story to kids, a history story, whether it be the Underground Railroad or, Black Bottom, or, something about my family, people either laugh or they get into it. They laugh, or they
got you.
cry, or whatever. So I guess
Sure.
I'm a storyteller.
Right.
And so I said, kids seem to like this, because I was telling the story from an 8-year-old's point of view. Okay. Because I start off with, my daddy told me a lie.
Okay.
And the lie was, we were going to a parade. And I knew parades, they have clowns and balloons.
Right. Sure, sure.
So I was all excited. And then
Sure.
we're all getting dressed up. Now, when do you get dressed up to go to a parade?
Okay.
So I mean, like, my brother and father had on ties and the suit jackets, and my mom had her hat on and heels. And I said, what kind of parade is this?
All right, let me stop you there. Why do you think they got dressed up? Was it in recognition of this grand moment because Dr. King was there, or that was the attire of the day, or what?
It was very respectful. In fact, in my book, I found some pictures my dad took that day. Let me see if I can find them right here. And if you can see these, everybody was dressed up.
Yeah, they always wore suits and stuff. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, yeah, especially, that back in those days, you didn't even go to some place like Hudson's department store. The women didn't go without their hat and gloves and looking very, very professional and dignified.
Yeah, that's right. Sure,
they didn't do that jean thing,
right,
all the time. In fact, remember when we were in elementary school, we used to have to get dressed to go to school. We didn't go to school in what we played in when we came home from school.
That's right.
I remember
Sure
when
didn't.
we were in elementary school, girls had to wear dresses or skirts. We could not wear pants. Could
That's
not.
right. So you all go to the parade dressed up.
It wasn't a parade. It was the march. They tricked me saying it was a parade. I guess they didn't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
I had been watching TV, and I knew Dr. Martin Luther King because I watched TV. And so that's how I started my book, and that's how I started telling the story to the kids. And I think all kids can identify with being tricked by their parents.
Let me ask you this. When you go to the parade, what do you all do? Do you all get in the parade? Do you stand on the curb?
Well, you have to read my book. And my book, it'll only take you half an hour to go through 5 years of history. But basically, we went and from what I remember, we were somewhere on Woodward Avenue near the old Hudson's building. And it was so crowded. I had never seen Detroit, even though I was only 8 years old. It wasn't a lot of Detroit I had seen, but it was so crowded that all you could do was move with the crowd. And moving with the crowd, and then all of a sudden all you do is stop and just wait, stop and wait. And when Martin Luther King and them started coming down the street, they were walking, my dad actually put me on his shoulders at 8 years old, because daddies don't usually put their 8-year-olds on their shoulders, but he put me up there so I could see. And that is actually the little picture on my book, my dad with me on his shoulders. Can you see that?
Right. Yep, sure can. Then, that's nice.
Yeah. And then after King went past, then you had the unions, because don't forget it was the unions that sponsored him to come, and the churches that sponsored it. They came down, and my grandmother was with the church women, and we're trying to get her attention and waving to her, and then after everybody finally, all the participants, when they went past, the people who were watching them, they got in line. So we were all, I guess, part of the
I got you.
And then at the time, Coble Hall, the round building was where they used to have actually basketball.
Yeah, that's right.
They had basketball, and that was a building where King actually spoke.
Were you able to get in there?
Excuse me?
Were you able to get in?
No, we were not able to get in. We were outside. But they had these huge speakers, so you could hear what was going on inside.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever hear, or did your dad ever say, okay, we got to be careful at this march because there might be trouble?
Not that I remember.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And there was no trouble. It wasn't like the police tried to do anything, or it wasn't like even racists tried to jam anything up.
It was there were no, I know it wasn't on TV. It wasn't like broadcast. Now, they broadcast everything live.
Sure.
It was like news at 6, and that type of thing.
Sure.
So yeah, there wasn't any violence. There wasn't any negativity that I remember. Okay. It was only a lot of people there for the same purpose. And regardless of what color you were there for the same purpose. So, even the white people.
You saw white people there?
Oh yeah, there were white people in the marching and in the crowds. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a majority black, but there were whites. I'm sure there were probably some Hispanics too.
Or, sure.
Other people. Yeah. But there was majority black and majority male.
Really?
At the time were majority male, and the one thing I'm wondering about from the march, because now if we have a big gathering, they always have toilets, right? A row of toilets, and people have access to the bathroom. I don't remember what we did about going to the bathroom.
I got you.
Back then, they didn't have any of those kind of conveniences.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I went to, and I'm making it under the question like this. I went to the Me and Man March, and I went to the 50th anniversary of that march you speak of, so on and so forth. And when you're there, you feel a sense of pride. Do you remember your dad's like crying or something like that because of the pride he felt how Black people had come together? Or could you feel that yourself? You know,
I don't
like,
think I ever saw my dad cry.
yeah, yeah,
But just the fact that he was there, I guess that was,
yeah.
you're part of the crowd. You're listening. You're active. But the one thing about my dad that I can appreciate that I didn't realize, and it seems like it was of that generation, the great generation, the Black people, the great generation, they had a dedication of pulling somebody else up with them.
I love it. There you
They, they,
go.
they, so I know when my dad, okay, he retired from, he had several jobs he retired from, but he retired from the Army. Then he started working for Federal Department Stores. You remember Federal Department Stores?
Yeah, right, right.
Then when that store closed, for those of you who don't know Federals, it was kind of like it was a department store,
Yeah,
a local
right,
department store.
right.
And then when that store closed, my dad went to work for SYNCOG here in Detroit, and that's the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. It's still in operation,
right.
And they're supposed to be planners for this area as far as the future. They plan roads and sewer systems and all those kind of things. I guess I don't know. I wasn't into it, but he was the personnel director for SYNCOG, and when he retired from SYNCOG, he made sure, even though he didn't make it obvious, but he made sure that he hired a brother to take his place.
There you go. I love it.
That's what they did back then. They weren't into that. Oh, I've made it, and you stay back there, in your poverty or in your whatever.
Right.
They believed in reaching back and pulling somebody else up.
Last question: what do you want kids to get out of your book?
What I want kids to get out of the book is that they're important, and I want them to realize that even though that they're a kid, that they're observing what's going on around them, and they need to remember all their lessons, even though you don't have to react to them, but it will stick in your head, and it will shape you in the future. All these experiences that I have made me who I am now.
I love it.
So I want them to read the book, because if you're a reader, it'll only take you half an hour, take you through 5 years of history. Actually, I start with the March on Detroit and go the next 5 years in my head as far as what was happening in history, which includes when I went to Fitzgerald Elementary School. I think I mentioned that earlier.
Right.
And my brother was telling me about this kid in his class. And back in the day, they used to mainstream the blind kids and the deaf kids in the schools. Mainstreaming mean they had their classes where they would learn how to, like the kids would learn how to read Braille or sign language. And then they would have classes with the kids who weren't in the blind and Braille classes, so that they could get assimilated into the world of people who could see or hear.
Right.
And this one young man was in my brother's class, and my brother said he was real talented. Yeah, it's like, okay. Dun, 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 dun. Watching the Ed Sullivan Show one Sunday night, and who do they introduce on the Ed Sullivan Show but little Stevie Wonder?
Oh, he was in his class. Yes.
Yeah. So
that's
so those
sweet.
are the kind of things. And when I'm talking about this situation, especially seeing little Stevie Wonder on the Ed Sullivan Show, and they made it, because you can see the reruns now, so you can still see it.
Yeah.
And they make cuts to the audience, right? And the audience, people are dancing. You have white people and black people dancing in the audience. Right. And my mom makes this comment: "I bet they don't show that down south."
Right.
And what are they referring to, sir?
Black and white people together.
They had censors in down south who would not show on the southern television sets or stations integration.
Oh, that's right. That's what I'm talking about. Yep, that's right. That's right.
So those kind of things. Yeah. Those things.
Now, how do people get your book?
Go on Facebook and look for MLK Jr.'s Detroit Dream.
Right.
And that will give you information about where you can get the book.
Okay.
And also, you can, it's at on Amazon.
Right. There you
And
go.
Barnes and Noble, the usual places.
The
But I
usual.
would prefer for people to go to your local independent bookstore, especially if it's a Black bookstore, and
Sure.
ask them to order it through them, and go through the your independent Black bookstores, or independent bookstores if you don't have any Black ones in your community.
All right. There you go.
You didn't ask me how the book ends.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the book basically is a 5-year history, goes from when Martin Luther King came here for his march in Detroit, and then the different changes in my life. And then two, my book is told from a Black middle class point of view. Okay, so some people don't think that Black middle class people ever existed, but they do. And it also deals with my family, because mom and dad and even grandma given her opinion. And so it shows a Black family. And so when, the other thing too, in 1967, again, getting to hanging out and doing things that my brother was doing, and looking up and seeing plumes of smoke. There's a plume of smoke there, a plume of smoke there. Then the sirens,
Right.
67 riot was starting. So yeah.
Okay.
So after the 67 riots, white people moved out of Detroit. I mean, in droves. I mean, they were moving out. They were moving out so fast that they couldn't get a moving van. You had to, to reserve a moving van weeks in advance, because they were getting so many to move out of Detroit. But anyhow, that freed up houses in neighborhoods where Black people before couldn't move.
Right.
So we moved to a new neighborhood because my parents could move out the old neighborhood. And in the new school, they had some very, very bright, dedicated Black teachers, and they're going to bring the culture to the kids. And so we had already a program that had young man reciting King's "I Have a Dream" speech, which a lot of people don't know that King recited his "I Have a Dream" speech in Detroit before he went to Washington, D.C. And
that's right.
So anyhow, this one child, not child, David, I remember his name. And David was doing the "I Have a Dream" speech, and they kept him. He didn't go on the program when he was supposed to, but okay.
Yeah.
And then they kept him till the very end. And when David got up there and he did the "I Have a Dream" speech, he was excellent. He was
okay.
He was like, it was like King had come into him. It was great. And then after David finished, they made the announcement that King had been shot.
Oh, and that's the way the book ends.
Well, it kind of ends. Well, that's where it ends. But I do mention that people did act badly, but now in carrying on King's dream, you have to do it. It's up to us to carry on the dream.
I got you. I love it. Well, hey everybody, I told you you're gonna like this. She had me enthralled.
Well,
I had to sit back and don't say nothing. Allow her to do it, because she eloquently told us about her upbringing and about her dedication to the community at large, Black people in particular, and how she was motivated to be that way.
Oh, and then I think I mentioned it, but you didn't dwell on it, because some people do. I was Miss Black Teenage America.
No, didn't know that.
Yes, back in 1971, 1972, Miss Black Teenage America. And I think I took that over seriously, because to me, it wasn't about my looks. It was because of my brains,
Yes,
and so
I love it.
I took the whole thing about doing for the Black people, and my mom's when I was a kid in the Army, and my mom saying you have to represent the race, and all that kind of
sure.
that stuff too doggone seriously, and here I am today.
Yeah, still beautiful. All right.
Thank you. You're
there you go.
You're my best friend today.
Yes, that's good enough. So hey everybody, hit the subscribe button on Strong Inspirations. Hit the like button on this video, because I know you felt the warmth. Hit the notifications bell and tell somebody about Strong. Don't keep it to yourself. You running around here, you getting all this good information, free, complimentary, what have you. I don't have no problem with that. but then you don't want to share it. Share it. You and your kids sit and watch these videos. You can move the cursor wherever you want to. Order her book. Let your 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old read this. Very well written.
May I make one comment?
You sure can.
Okay, actually, the secret about this book, it's for baby boomers. And baby boomers, so that they can remember their childhood. And the secret is you can have your kids come over, and if you want to see what they're doing in school, the ones who can read, have them read the book to you, and then tell them your own experience. What do you remember about Martin Luther King? What do you remember about the 67 riots? What happened, whatever was in your life. So this is kind of benchmark for people, baby boomers, to tell their own kids.
There you go. There you go. Everybody read, get that book. Get my book, everybody, and watch my movie. And then I want to say this to you, and I mean this sincerely. I want you to stay strong, stay safe, stay on your grind. I love what you're doing. You making it happen. You follow through. That's one of the things, because a lot of times people say we're going to do something, write a book, do a movie, whatever, and get into a little roadblock here and there for whatever reason, and don't follow through. You follow through, and you're doing it for the right of the community. That's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on Strong Inspirations, everybody, for watching us. With that, I'll say bye-bye. We out. Peace.